questions and some numericals. So let's start without wasting the time. Credit risk. Now, what is the credit risk? See here, always remember, credit risk means relates to the credit worthiness of the buyer, could result in non-payment of the export bills due to any reason like financial crunch, default, insolvency, and anything. Now understand, one important point about credit risk is always related to two aspects. Okay, one is a counterparty and second is this country risk. Okay, let me draw it over here. Credit risk will always relate to two parts. Okay, one is country risk, country, and second is counterparty risk. Counterparty, right? What do you mean by this? Country and counterparty risk. See here, firstly understand what is credit risk. Relates to the credit worthiness of the buyer, okay? Basically of the buyer, could result in non-payment of the export, non-payment of the export bills due to any reason like financial crunch. Now here the financial crunch is a typical question point given over here. Defaults, insolvency. Now all these points relate to the counterparty over here. Financial crunch of that counterparty, defaults by that counterparty, insolvency of that counterparty. Now all these three aspects can definitely relate back to the country also. For example, I'll give you. Suppose if you have sold anything in, let's say, Afghanistan, any country, Afghanistan, okay, or North Korea, okay, what happens now? Even if your party is well off means if that party is ready to buy, say, give you the money, that party is good, financially that party is good, the transactions are good, everything is okay. But what happens typically, the country goes into default. Then also it's a risk. Because if tomorrow Taliban government says that no, nothing doing, no foreign exchange will go out of my bank from today. Even if your party is good, what will you do? Your payment is blocked, isn't it? This is a major problem for the country risk. This country risk has arose in many of the countries recently also. To name the few, all our neighbors, check all our neighbors, almost all. One is this Afghanistan, second is Pakistan. Look at this, what has happened. Look at Sri Lanka, what has happened, right? Means all these three countries, these are the major three neighbors of us. There is also Nepal, but Nepal doesn't have much foreign exchange over as such. Okay, so these three countries will always have always been the credit risky countries, to be frank. Okay, because there is a huge country risk in this. Now counterparty means what? The country is good, but the counterparty is bad. Means your buyer is bad. Your buyer is not ready to pay. So this can be willful also. Suppose somebody is in USA, your buyer is in USA, your buyer is in Europe. So are the country is good, the countries are good. But what is happening? Your buyer is not okay. So that's why I'll tell you, credit risk will relate to two parts always. One is country risk and second is counterparty risk. Okay. So credit worthiness of the buyer. How will you check the credit worthiness of the buyer? It's very difficult to check credit worthiness of the buyer. So that's why we should always, to cover this credit risk, we always try to use one element. What is that element called as? We always try to use LCs, letter of credit. Through LCs, the credit worthiness of the buyer is bypassed. Okay. So in LC, what do? We give typical, that bank gives us the responsibility, means gives us the assurance of payment on production of the documents, right? So that's why the credit worthiness of the buyer is gone and non-payment of the export bills by the buyer is gone. So typical credit risk is covered by LCs. Okay. LCs or even guarantees you can take. Guarantees means guarantees are also allowed. Okay. Financial guarantees. So they can be also allowed. So remember always, credit risk is always countered using LC or guarantee, or there is one more, but many of you might not know, but that is called as availization, similar to guarantee. Avail. Okay. Avail means giving a stamp on the bill of exchange. Suppose if this is the bill of exchange. Okay. Now here you are the drawer, you seller signs it, right? Here the buyer signs it, buyer. But in availization, what happens? This buyer also signs it, and here the on this bill of exchange, face of it, bank will sign it. Bank will say, I will pay if the buyer doesn't pay. So this is a third party assurance you are getting, and that also from the bank, good bank. Okay. So that's why this is known as availization. So to counter the credit risk, we always have these three things: LC, guarantee, and availization. Okay. Now second is legal risk. What is a legal risk? Look at this. Let me remove this now because this you have understood. Legal risk. What is the legal risk? Understand this. Relates to any amendment in the laws of the seller's or buyer's country which could result in inability of the seller to export or of the buyer to remit the proceeds of the invoices. Means what? After all, this again relates to country risk. A part of the country risk. Here, country risk can have various parts. Country risk. It can have legal. Like as I said, just now I gave you this example of legal. Afghanistan. Taliban took over, and then it's their own laws which are going on. So relates to any amendment in laws of the seller's or buyer's country which could result in inability of the seller to export or of the buyer to remit the proceeds, isn't it? Means seller is ready to export, your party is good, but the problem is the country is saying nothing doing, no more goods to be sent outside this country, no more exports, so everything is stopped. Similarly for buyer, no more money to be sent, forex to be sent outside my country, so that is also blocked. Okay. So country risk could relate to legal, or there are various risks in country. I'll give you this pestle. This is known as a typical risk analysis, pestle. Every country is always measured based on this pestle. Political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. Always remember this. Pestle analysis is done for each and every country before doing any business with them or investing in any country like this. Okay. So this is a typical one. I'll give you one more example in legal risk. Suppose if you go in many of the Middle East countries, the checks which we have, checks in India, checks are typically for how many months? Maximum 3 months, right? Beyond 3 months, you can't use those checks in India. But in some of the Middle East countries like UAE and others, you have those checks which are being used for almost 2 years also. Because that is a legal process, legal system, right? In India, you can take the collateral, right? And nobody stops you. Suppose in some Middle East countries, the collateral is, if it is to be taken, how can you take it if you are a foreign bank over there? You can't take it because there the laws are different regarding the property. So it depends on those laws. Okay, that's why it's called as a legal risk. Means whenever you have to enter any country for doing any business, you have to typically be sure that what are the legal problems in that. Okay. So legal risk continued. This could be due to the embargoes on the countries, ban restrictions on the export of a particular goods, ban restriction on remittance of funds to particular country. Now I'll tell you one thing like ban. What is ban or restriction of export? On export. Look at this. Recently, India had banned this import of all these laptops, foreign-made laptops. Also export, I'll write it over here. Here, import of laptops was banned by India, right? Import. So this is again a legal risk. Import of laptops. Okay. Similarly, export. We have banned what recently? What have we banned? Can anyone know? Tell me. What is the export which is banned by India now? Recently. Rice, correct. Rice is banned. Second, wheat is banned. Wheat. Okay, wheat is banned. Then third, what is banned? What is India banned? Many of the things are there. Onions have been banned now. Onions. These have been banned. So these are typical bans which arise within that country, which the country gives these bans. So embargoes means stoppages on the countries. Ban restrictions on export of a particular goods, ban restriction on remittance of funds. Okay. So funds transfer, like I gave you the example of Taliban, right? So these are typical examples of legal risk. Everyone subscribe to Officers Adda 24/7 YouTube channel. In this channel, you will get the latest updates from IIBF explained. Okay, updates from IIBF are explained over here, latest ones. Okay, so what is the point is, many of the IIBF notifications which come are very difficult to understand by common banker. So they are explained it over here. And second is, you get free YT series, YouTube series. Okay, free. So whatever is free, I would suggest grab it fast, isn't it? Now similarly, see here, right now you are watching BFM YT series. Similarly, you can have the YT series on, you will be having it on ABM, for ABFM, for BRBL, all the 4 subjects by different mentors. Similarly for JAIIB also you are having it, right? So subscribe to this channel, click on the bell icon, click on the like button, share it with your friends. Do it fast. Because remember, sharing is caring. That is very important. Okay? Country and political risk. Now, what do you mean by this here? Just now we saw some part of the country risk, but again we'll see the political risk now. It relates to the development in the country of the buyer or seller leading to default in export or payment. So developments in the country, developments means these developments are always dynamic, remember, or buyer leading to default in the export or payments. Okay, so developments can be dynamic, means suppose if the government changes in many of the countries, so immediately there are bans, right? Similarly, for example, right now in US, what is happening? They are coming up with the elections, right, in 24. So now the new candidate has told that he'll put a tax on India. Donald Trump, he has told that he'll put a tax on India if he comes to power. What is this? This is the intention of the political risk, right? Some other countries have also done the same. Means China is generally is not a friend of good friend of India. So it always tries to put some taxes, something on Indian goods, right? So these are all political risks. There are also friendly countries as such, like in UAE for India. They are typical friends. They have allowed freely everything. Okay. So relates to the development in the country of the buyer or seller leading to the default in the export or payments. This could be due to uncertainty in laws, right? Uncertainty in laws. Uncertainty in financial position of the countries. Remember, financial position of the countries. This is typical. Okay. Discordant relationship between the countries or fluid political situation. So discordant relationship between the countries means friends and foes, means going against each other. Okay, discordant means cross relationship. And fluid political situation. Fluid means what? Like if you see this fluid political situation, I'll give you a typical example. In many countries, like for example, in this Israel, if you check Israel country, they have so many elections. Every 7 months, they are nowadays having the elections, and the government changes. So that is fluid situation. If you go typically in South African countries, typically, their government changes every now and then. So that is fluid political situation. Okay. So fluid means what? Very fragile political situation, right? So developments, uncertainties in law, financial position of the countries, and discordant relationships. These are the typical risks. Okay. Let me come to few more. Countries' weak forex reserves position could lead to the shortage of foreign exchange or inability to buy foreign exchange, resulting in externalization issues. Now, this is a typical and this needs explanation. Weak forex reserves. Okay. Okay, just tell me one thing. We'll compare. We are neighbors over here, India and Pakistan. We'll compare India and Pakistan. Okay. So now, India, will say Bharat now. India is not India. We should say Bharat now, because how can a country have two names, isn't it? So Bharat. Okay. So now, let's say in Bharat, what happens? Countries weak forex reserves. Look at this point. Right now, what are the forex reserves of India? Anyone knows? Anyone idea? Any idea? It is 600 plus billion. 600 plus billion. Okay. 600 plus billion. What are the forex reserves of Pakistan? Roughly 7 to 8 billion. 7 to 8 billion. Where is 600? Where is 7 to 8? So this is known as weak forex reserves. World Bank says here every time World Bank has given, and in fact IMF has given a simple rule. IMF says that which country is stable country? Which country do we call it as stable country? The stable country definition they have given, any country whose forex reserves are sufficient for next 9 months for imports. So that country is called as stable. Okay. Now look at India's 600 plus billion reserves. Every year, every month, India requires around, this is what the general, whatever is found is, around 40 billion for imports. Every 40 billion per month. Okay. Now we multiply it by 9. 9 for the 36. So 360 billion we require for 9 months. Right now, how much are we having? 600 billion. So we are much more than the stable. We have a best rating. That's why India is having nowadays, and this rating is very high for India. Okay, and it is going up constantly. So important point always remember over here. Countries' weak forex reserves will always lead to shortage of the foreign exchange and inability to buy foreign exchange, resulting in externalization issues. Now look, if you look at the inflation, if you look at the typical inflation, then what happens? If you look at the inflation, okay, inflation in Pakistan has rose heavily. Similarly in Sri Lanka, rose heavily. Why? Because less of the forex reserves. Okay, this less forex reserves always leads to high inflation. So this is a typical reason. Got it? So that's why any country's forex reserves will lead to a problems of inflation, political problems, legal problems, social problems. All these problems here, after all, it's money. If you don't have money, nothing can, means you can't play games with money. Either you have this money or you don't have the money, isn't it? Everyone download Adda 24/7 app on your mobile. In this app, you will be getting the premium study material, plus live classes, ebooks, tests, everything. Whatever you need, you will get it over here. Okay? Operational risk. Operational risk relates to operational issues at both ends or even at the supporting organization's place. Means, what do you mean by this? Both ends. What are the both ends? There is a typical here. Let's look at every export or import transaction. There is a typical exporter, right? From any country it is. Then second, we have typical importer. The one who buys, right? Importer. Now the in between, how will the goods over here should reach from the exporter to the importer, right? But how will they reach it? It reaches through supporting organization, means shipping company. So shipping company. Okay, shipping company. So this is known as the third party or shipping the supporting organization. So relates to the operational issues at both ends or even at the supporting organization's place. Means if the exporter is having some problem, then that exporter won't be able to ship the goods. If the importer is having the problem, the importer won't be able to give the funds, right? Funds back, because funds should be received from importer. So importer won't be able to give the funds, right? Then strikes at the seller's factory. So this can also happen, strikes at the seller's factory or even seller's raw material supplier's factory. So if some exporter is getting some raw material from somebody to prepare the goods, right? So somebody is supplier to this exporter also. So if there is a strike or some problem with that supplier, even then raw material will not be received. So exporter won't be able to export, manufacture and export. Then this raw materials suppliers, transporters or loaders or banks or clearing agents anywhere. Even if there is a strike in the shipping company, there's typical strike over here, then also it's gone. You can't do anything in that case. So that's why operational risk relates to in any ways if you can't give the service. It can be due to strike, it can be due to dacoity, it can be due to terrorist attack, it can be due to floods, anything. Okay. Similarly, operational breakdowns or failures of systems, connectivity and communication, disruptions, commotions and other strikes or errors of by operating staff could lead to non-shipment or delay in shipment, shipment of defective or damaged goods, delays in making payments or receiving payments. So anything which relates to the stoppage of any transaction. So what are the transactions over here? Look at this. Failures of systems, connectivity, communication. So if there is no communication, how can you communicate with that guy in USA? Okay. Disruptions, commotions and other strikes, errors by operating staff. Errors by operating staff is also an important part. Error of commission and omission. We had this in your JAIIB, right? So these errors can also lead to huge problems. Could lead to non-shipment, right? Now before going, everyone, join our Telegram channel, YouTube channel and Instagram channel. These are the QR codes. Kindly scan them immediately. Okay. So here, this. So that was the YT series. Now before going, let me tell you, join the batches ASAP. Let me show you the batches. Go to Adda 24/7. I will always suggest you to go through the app. In the app, you get 1% extra using the coin systems. Let me show you. Okay. So this, go to Adda 24/7. Click on JAIIB and CAIIB. Then click on CAIIB June 24. Clicked. Now you will see the batches. Look at this. Click on this victory batch. See this victory batch. Why? Because it is still yet to start and it is a detailed batch. I'll show you what all is there in this. Click on this batch. You'll get ebooks, test series, online live classes, expert faculties, interactive classes, recorded videos, limited size batches. Go through it. See this. Below, go below, you'll see the product highlights. Various highlights are given. Means 350 hours of interactive live classes, 110 plus test series. Now access 150 ebooks. See this. Ebooks means you can read it whenever you want in the mobile itself. Okay. So that's in class PDFs will be provided for quick revision. So all these things are there. Plus you go through the below details. So look at the faculty details. Everything you will get it. And more importantly, look at the discount part. Click on buy now. Now this 75% off is going on. But put the code Y432. Let me show you. See, now click on apply. Now look at this, 77% off. Plus if you go through the app, you will be getting 1% extra. Okay, so join immediately. Okay, I'll always suggest you to join the Mahapack also. Let me show you the Mahapack. See this, CAIIB Mahapack 2.0. Click on this Mahapack. You'll see again all the ebooks, test series, online live classes, experienced faculties, all. And importantly, look at the validity, 6 months and 12 months. Whatever you want, you can select as per your requirement. Again, the same code, put the code Y432. Never forget the code. Now click on apply. Look at this. Look at the fees now. 77% off. And if you go through the app, you get 1% extra. So join immediately the Mahapack or the batches, because you have not missed. You won't be missing much in the batches as of now, as they are yet just starting. Okay.